The room smelled of polished wood and confidence. He leaned back in his chair, smiling like a man immune to consequences. The meeting had drifted from numbers into ego, and everyone followed his rhythm. Then he flicked the Bentley keys across the table toward me, casual, dismissive, theatrical. Laughter filled the room on cue. In that second, the hierarchy was performed, not spoken. He wanted witnesses. He wanted agreement. He wanted me small. Age teaches patience before pride collapses publicly. He had just finished lecturing about loyalty, discipline, and long memories. He believed age belonged to him alone. When he told me ambition mattered more than patience, heads nodded again. What none of them saw was the quiet shift already underway. 2 months earlier, during a frantic refinancing, he had rushed signatures like chores. Page 3 carried consequences. Asset control had moved, subtly, legally, permanently. I read everything because experience trains survival, not speed, especially when arrogance pays attention elsewhere. When the keys landed in my hand, I felt nothing theatrical. No smile. No triumph. Just clarity. The weight was symbolic, not metal. He thought the gesture ended the conversation. It actually began it. Around us, people resumed talking, believing the moment had passed. It had not. I understood then that power prefers silence. It waits for the right structure, then moves without asking permission. Those lessons usually arrive late for men protected by applause and habitual institutional comfort illusions. I placed the keys gently on the table and met his eyes once. Not in defiance, but in acknowledgement. He mistook calm for surrender, like many do. Meetings ended.
Chairs moved.
People left carrying jokes and confidence. I stayed seated, already working through consequences. By the time the doors closed, I knew the story would not be told loudly. It would be executed carefully, patiently, and without witnesses. Because real power never needs applause or permission to operate effectively now. People past 50 recognize patterns faster than excuses. Confidence becomes dangerous when it stops listening. He skimmed contracts the way younger men skim instructions, trusting momentum to protect him. That refinancing meeting moved quickly, phones buzzing, assistants hovering, urgency manufactured. Pages turned without pauses. Questions were discouraged. He signed because signing had always worked before. Experience teaches that speed is rarely neutral and haste always leaves fingerprints. Buried inside that stack was the page he never absorbed. Collateral authority shifted quietly during the liquidity adjustment. The Bentley was no longer a symbol of success, but a tool securing borrowed optimism. My name appeared beside compliance authorization, routine to him, deliberate to me. I had earned that role by being invisible, reliable, and underestimated, which is often the safest position in any room. He never asked why procedures changed or why oversight tightened. He assumed loyalty replaced verification. Age reveals the flaw in that belief. Systems remember what egos forget. While he toasted a partnership still waiting on signatures, I reviewed timestamps, clauses, and exposure. Nothing dramatic. Nothing personal. Just alignment between authority and timing that favors those who prepare quietly. Late that afternoon, when offices softened and noise faded, I sent the email. One recipient. One attachment. Language stripped of tone and explanation. Authority invoked, compliance activated, action scheduled. I did not wait for response. People over 50 understand this discipline. You do not announce execution. You document it. By the time he discovered what had moved beneath him, the structure had already accepted my signature as final. That is the moment younger professionals miss. Power rarely arrives loudly. It settles through preparation and restraint. I closed my laptop and left without urgency. Outside, evening traffic moved patiently. Inside, a countdown had begun without alarms. Experience teaches that consequences do not rush. They arrive on schedule, indifferent to pride, reputation, or disbelief. Age confirms lessons when silence replaces applause entirely. The repossession was procedural, almost polite. The company confirmed identification, cross-checked authorization, and matched timing to the minute. No threats were made. No explanations offered. During his bored lunch, while presentations glowed on polished screens, the Bentley was removed from the executive garage. Cameras recorded routine movement. Security nodded. Nothing disrupted the agenda. That quiet efficiency is what experience teaches to respect. He did not feel it immediately. Status cushions shock until witnesses disappear. By the time dessert was served, the car was already secured off-site. Assistants noticed first. A pause at the window. A whispered question unanswered. Men who rely on symbols feel exposed when symbols vanish. Age reveals how fragile authority becomes once routines break, without warning. His call came 10 minutes later. Not rage, not blame, but confusion edged with disbelief. He asked whether I knew anything about an error. Experience recognizes that tone. It is the sound of control slipping before anger replaces it. I answered evenly. There were no mistakes, only processes doing what they were designed to do. Silence followed. I ended the call before explanations invited negotiation. People over 50 understand this restraint. Once systems activate, conversation becomes distraction. He would spend hours searching for a face to confront, a voice to pressure, someone to reverse momentum. There was no one. The structure had moved. Consequences now traveled without my presence, indifferent, patient, and irreversible. Later that evening, I drove home slowly, radio off, thinking about timing. Not victory, not revenge, just alignment. Careers end when people confuse performance with control. I had learned that lesson decades earlier. This was not personal. It was architectural. And architecture, once shifted, does not apologize or return calls. The following weeks would confirm everything age had already taught me about silence, leverage, and patience. None of it required celebration. It required distance, documentation, and restraint. Those qualities rarely announce themselves but always decide outcomes quietly. The change was immediate yet unannounced. Laughter died between sentences. Chairs no longer scraped casually across the floor. Executives glanced at doors instead of screens, waiting for something unnamed to enter. Assistants lowered voices, hands paused over keyboards, smiles withdrawn like privileges revoked. The absence of noise felt heavier than confrontation. Buildings remember hierarchy, and when it fractures, walls seem to listen. Nothing had been declared, yet everyone sensed that the center of gravity had quietly moved elsewhere. He arrived back to the floor expecting routine to cushion him. Instead, eyes slid away. Conversations shortened. Authority depends on reflection, and without mirrors it collapses. The Bentley had served as proof of arrival, success made visible and unquestioned. Without it, his presence felt provisional. People over 50 know this instinctively. Respect is not removed loudly. It evaporates through hesitation, through pauses where agreement once lived. He sensed it before confirmation arrived. Meetings ended faster. Invitations stopped appearing. Decisions were made without his commentary. Silence replaced deference, and silence spreads quickly. Experienced professionals recognize the danger of that vacuum. When symbols disappear, substance is tested. Some withstand it. Others discover they were never the structure, only decoration attached to it. I watched the shift from a distance, not present, not required. That is how authority truly transfers. Not with announcements, but with absence. He had confused visibility with control for years. Now visibility worked against him. The room adjusted without instruction, without cruelty. Age teaches that this moment is irreversible. Once silence replaces status, it never asks permission to stay. No one explained the change because explanation weakens truth. Buildings shift when belief shifts. His power had lived in assumption, not ownership. Once questioned, it could not recover its shape. That is the quiet ending few anticipate. Not collapse, not drama, just an empty space where certainty once stood. Experience confirms this lesson longer than applause ever could for those paying attention. The company unraveled the same way the car disappeared, quietly and within policy. Creditors do not announce concern, they request clarity. The restructuring had granted intervention, rights designed for moments like this. When liquidity tightens, authority shifts. Expansion plans paused automatically. Vendor payments required secondary approval. Forecasts were flagged for review. None of it felt aggressive. It felt procedural, which is always more dangerous. Experienced professionals understand that when systems begin asking questions, answers alone rarely stop momentum. I initiated the compliance review without ceremony. One form, one reference number, one timeline. Bonuses were suspended pending confirmation. Hiring slowed to a crawl. Cash flow buffers tightened. These measures do not sound dramatic until people rely on them. Board members reacted quickly, not emotionally. They asked for explanations, projections, reassurance. He provided confidence. Confidence no longer counted as currency. Structures had already begun protecting themselves from risk. He expected confrontation and was met with distance. The board scheduled meetings without him, then sent summaries instead. Decisions hardened while his access softened. People over 50 recognized this stage. Influence is reduced through omission, not removal. When payroll flexibility vanished, managers adjusted behavior immediately. Loyalty shifted toward stability. No speeches were given. No villains named. Everyone followed the safest path available, which rarely includes the person under review. Silence becomes policy when uncertainty threatens careers built over decades, and no one risks alignment with instability publicly. I was not invited because presence was unnecessary. Authority had already shifted into documents and deadlines. He searched for allies and found caution instead. That is how companies are truly lost. Not through scandal, but through controls that tighten without malice. Experience teaches this ending. When institutions protect themselves, individuals become expendable. The company did not choose me. It chose survival, and survival never waits for permission. By the time questions surfaced, outcomes were fixed beyond negotiation, and careers adjusted to the new reality without ceremony quietly. He entered the boardroom stripped of insulation. No car waiting downstairs, no buffer left in accounts, no momentum to hide behind. Faces around the table stayed neutral, practiced, older than ambition. Papers felt heavier in his hands because certainty was gone. He tried to speak early, then stopped, sensing resistance before words formed. Age teaches this signal. When a room no longer leans toward you, authority has already relocated without witnesses' applause or sympathy remaining for anyone involved today present. The meeting followed procedure, not emotion. Questions arrived slowly, carefully framed, each exposing a missing pillar. Projections failed to reassure. Promises sounded dated. He referenced past wins, but boards listened forward. Silence grew between sentences, forcing him to fill it, and every attempt weakened him further. Experienced professionals recognize this erosion. Power drains fastest when someone explains instead of directs, when memory replaces control, when certainty asks permission from others seated nearby watching quietly and learning consequences unfold without mercy. I was not visible, yet fully present. The screen showed posture, hesitation, the subtle tremor of restraint. I listened without satisfaction. This was not triumph. It was confirmation. Years of preparation condensed into minutes. He searched faces for alignment and found caution. That moment ends careers more often than mistakes. Once trust migrates, it does not return. Institutions move on, leaving individuals arguing with echoes long after decisions settle quietly inside formal rooms built for permanence and authority once assumed. When the meeting adjourned, nothing dramatic followed. No raised voices, no sudden exits. Just folders closing and conclusions hardening. He left diminished, carrying paper instead of certainty. I closed the feed and returned to my day. Experienced people understand this ending. Power rarely explodes. It withdraws. It chooses silence over spectacle. And when it does, the outcome is finished before anyone notices. Movement has already ended within systems designed to survive pride, error, age, time, ambition, loss, quietly, always alone. It was never the loss itself that unsettled him. Wealthy men recover assets quickly. What shook him was recognition. Someone he had spoken over, delayed, and dismissed had anticipated every move. Age teaches that fear grows when certainty collapses. He replayed meetings, jokes, gestures, searching for the moment he missed. There was none. The plan succeeded because it never announced itself. That realization arrives late and lingers longer than anger ever could. Such lessons rarely arrive gently for unprepared leaders. He had believed dominance came from volume, speed, presence. Performance filled rooms and intimidated hesitation. Patience, he assumed, belonged to those waiting behind. Instead, patience built quietly while he performed. Silence listened while he spoke. Entitled power fails to recognize preparation because preparation does not seek applause. People over 50 understand this reversal. The most dangerous opponent is not loud or visible. It is the one observing patterns while others perform confidence. That truth unsettles hierarchies built on noise alone. When awareness settled, he could not externalize blame. There was no conspiracy, no betrayal, no dramatic enemy. The fear came from clarity. He saw the limits of intimidation and the weakness of spectacle. Respect did return to the room, but it attached itself elsewhere. Experience migrates toward restraint. The room adjusted, conversations recalibrated, authority redistributed, without ceremony. Entitled power fears this most because it cannot fight silence or negotiate preparation already executed once systems have quietly chosen their direction fully. This is what truly terrifies those accustomed to deference. Not loss of assets, but loss of narrative. When silence exposes preparation, dominance collapses inward. Age confirms this lesson without mercy. Loud authority fades fastest when ignored. He remained present but irrelevant, surrounded by procedure and distance. Power did not punish him. It simply moved on. That is the ending entitled power never anticipates because it believes recognition is permanent, not borrowed, conditional, and temporary. Time eventually teaches everyone otherwise clearly. If you are listening later in life, you already understand that time sharpens vision. Urgency fades. Patterns remain. You have seen talent praised loudly and judgment ignored quietly. Revenge promises speed, but steals clarity. Position delivers outcomes without noise. This story was never about humiliation. It was about alignment. Knowing where authority lives before it moves. Waiting until systems speak louder than people. Age teaches that restraint is not weakness. It is leverage stored patiently over many long professional years. Let others underestimate experience because it no longer announces itself. Let arrogance rush ahead while preparation stays seated. When laughter fills rooms, listen harder. When gestures seek dominance, study documents instead. Nothing here required anger. It required reading, patience, and placement. The world rewards performance briefly but protects structure permanently. Those who know time understand this trade. You do not fight storms. You build foundations and allow weather to reveal who planned correctly through decades of professional life experience earned. What matters most after 50 is not proving worth, but preserving leverage. Silence becomes a strategy when words lose value. Distance protects judgment. Observation replaces reaction. This approach frustrates those addicted to applause because it offers none. Yet it consistently wins. Not loudly, not quickly, but finally. Power respects those who respect process. If you have been patient your whole life, understand this truth. Patience was never delay. It was preparation unfolding on schedule learned through lived consequences alone quietly. The lesson is simple, but rarely practiced. Do not rush to correct disrespect. Document it. Do not chase recognition. Secure authority. Let systems speak when people shout. When the moment arrives, act cleanly and leave no spectacle behind. That is how lasting outcomes are achieved. Not with revenge, but with readiness. The most dangerous presence in any room is not the loudest voice. It is the one who waited, positioned, and acted once without witnesses' approval, applause, fear, regret, hesitation.